And we should be going live.
Hi, I am Heidi. I am a physical therapist at Theraplay in Westchester. I am also our center manager. I have been a physical therapist in pediatrics for 13 years. And Michelle and I are here today to talk about just kind of like bracing and new walkers, and how with some of our kiddos that we see, bracing can impact them and help them kind of achieve their goals. So Michelle, if you want to give a little introduction on yourself.
Hi, I am Michelle. I am a certified orthotist, and I have been in the field for 30 years. I have 15 years of pediatric experience, and deal with all types of bracing from head to toe. We also do prosthetics, but we're not going to go there with that today. It's just we're going to focus on short steps and orthotics. So we'll talk about, like you said, walking.
Yeah. So we get a lot of referrals, not only here at our Westchester Center, but I would say across all of our centers for kiddos that are just at the point where they're having a little bit of difficulty progressing to that independent walking phase. Sometimes it's a kiddo that is, 16 months and not walking. Sometimes they're a little bit younger. So development for an independent walker should be somewhere between 12 and 15 months. A little one should be starting to get up and move on their feet independently and be able to walk without assistance. So there is a little range there. When we get a kiddo that comes to our center with a concern of delayed milestones and not yet walking, there's a whole bunch of things we look at. We really look at them from head to toe just to see what's going on with their whole body, and look at anything that may be impacting or preventing them from being able to walk independently. As we go through our examination, we'll look at their trunk, their overall strength. Do they have great core strength, or are they lacking in that area? We'll also look at their legs and overall strength and symmetry of skills with what they're already doing. And then another thing that we look at is just their overall feet. And if a little one that is standing, how do they look when they're standing? And are there compensations that we're seeing that kind of make us think that that may be impacting their ability to walk independently? We also look at a little one's overall muscle tone. It's not uncommon, but not all kids. It's not uncommon for a little one to have lower muscle tone and just have a little bit harder time progressing through some of their skills, especially those crawling and walking skills. It's also not uncommon for a little one that has low muscle tone to need a little bit of help with their foot and ankle just to give them a little bit of stability. And that's where we really look at everything and see if their feet are impacting them, and then bring orthotists like Michelle into the picture. If we do think that a little one needs some stability in their feet to help them be able to progress to independent walking. So Michelle, do you want to go over a little bit about what you do with a little one, how you recommend sure steps?
So it would be through an evaluation. We can always come out to the therapy appointment with the child and youth. It always makes it beneficial to have both there, so we can get the best bracing. I mean, the nice thing about Sure Step is they do concentrate on, giving that stability in the ankle and the foot, to provide, the stability that they need. So we would come out and discuss the different options. Obviously we want to keep the bracing as low as possible. We don't want to take away from other muscles that can, that was provide support and stability. It would just to give the, if it's just like for the ankle, then we would just only want to go across the ankle. Always though too, if we wind up casting, would take a cast of, because they are custom made braces. So we would take a cast of the child's foot. And from there, if we go up a little bit higher, we can always trim the plastic away. It's always better to have more than not enough, because we can always take it away. So I do have some samples of some of the Sure Steps that we would use just for foot and ankle stability.
That would be great.
Yeah, I could flip my camera around.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll say, like, as a therapist, Sure Steps are one of my favorite braces, especially for our little kiddos that are having a hard time walking. It really just seems to give them a little bit of stability. If they're compensating at their foot and ankle, it puts their heel and kind of foot in better alignment. And I feel like really just gives them a more stable base to be able to walk on.
yeah, so
They're also,
one style of that would just goes across the top of the ankle. So they're lined, they're very comfortable.
yeah, I feel like this is the brace that for all of my kiddos, it's very rare that I have a kiddo that has difficulty kind of weaning in and breaking into this brace. It's
Mhm.
usually one that they can break into pretty quickly. And I feel like most of my kids, parents will also say, oh, they even bring me their Sure Steps to put on. So it's not a brace that a kiddo is really kind of negative towards. It's one that they don't mind at all. And I will tell you personally, my youngest son has these and he brings me his braces every day and they've made a world of difference in his walking.
Yeah, and they make them fun, which is nice because they have all
Yes.
different patterns. So it's not like just this plain plastic that you're putting on. The kids like the patterns that are on them, and which, again, makes it much better for them to use. That's why they think they bring them to you, because they want to wear their fun little braces.
Yes. I think we have dinosaurs. But yeah, I feel like this is a brace professionally. It's always been a brace that I've really gravitated towards. I feel like it's not really limiting as far as what kids can and can't do in the brace. Sometimes as you get bigger braces, it gets a little bit hard to maneuver in, but this has always been a brace that really has just provided a little bit of stability and given a little bit of stability, but it really supports them a lot with just a minimal brace.
Right. And what I like about them is that the plastic is very thin, so they're not
Yeah.
big, that they have to go into, these big shoes or sneakers. It just keeps it very pretty midstream to their size that they're currently wearing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
No,
is beneficial to, not having to go out and buy all these new shoes.
yeah. Now, one of the questions that I always get, and I feel like sometimes as a therapist, once kiddos are walking, if they're doing well with everything else, I don't necessarily continue to see them. So a question I get a lot of times from families is, how long do I have to wear these braces, and when do I know when I'm done? So can you kind of go into what you usually recommend and how long a lot of your kiddos are in the braces?
I think I think it really just depends on, as they're wearing them, that their stability and their muscle strength gets better, that they don't need the braces. We like to do a lot of follow-up. So in the beginning, we give the families a wear schedule so that they're not leaving them on all day. We do a breaking in period of a wear schedule. And then we usually do like a week to 2 week follow-up just to make sure everything is going okay, that they're not getting any, markings or any irritation, and just to follow how they're doing with wearing them. If they grow and we still feel that they need them with, we would get the advice of, through the therapist, if they're still seeing therapy, they can wear them anywhere from, it's really hard to put a time frame on it, but
Yeah.
3 to 6 months. But again, it could be longer. It just depends on how their stability, their muscles become strengthened from wearing them.
Yeah.
So it's
And
really hard to say.
And then do you find often that your kiddos, when they're done and maybe a few years down the road, I don't know how often you see these kiddos, a little bit later, but do many kids end up needing orthotics after they go through and wear these, just to give them a little bit of kind of support in their heel and an arch?
Some have, not everybody, but again, that's something that we would evaluate when, when the family comes back in for a follow-up to check the fit, see if they're still been following with therapy. That what we would need to do as far as, would we just, like, again, take the plastic down so they don't have to wear something so high up. So yes, just doing an insert that would be evaluated at that time.
Yeah, I feel like that's sometimes it really obviously everything depends on the kiddo, but I have some kiddos that don't need anything afterwards, and then some kiddos that just need like a little orthotic that goes in the shoe that you don't even see just because of, how their anatomy is.
Right. And again, like I said, every child's different.
Yep.
And different. So it makes it hard because, like you said, like as far as the wear time, like, yep, some kids could wear them for a couple years. Other ones can just be for a little while. The biggest thing is just following with that growth and seeing how long that they really need them. And then, when can you start, decreasing that support so that as they're growing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, And I know beyond kind of sure steps, it's a brace, I would say, at least at our clinic here in Westchester, it's probably one of the most common ones that we use. But we also work with orthotists in a lot of other avenues for a lot of different bracing needs. Do you have examples of any other braces there with you?
As far, well, yes.
So we'll work with kiddos in therapy a lot, whether it's a child that has a neurological disorder and needs some support from a little bit higher brace. Sometimes we'll also recommend bracing for kiddos that are walking on their toes. Um, and then what do you
Yeah.
have there?
So this is like an articulating little mofo that,
Yep.
or with all different, like the strapping, depending on, if they're tight, if we need to help them keep their foot back inside. So it really, like you said, it just depends on the evaluation and what type of bracing we need to provide for them. So
Yeah.
obviously, this is something that would come up to right above the calf muscle. So, but it articulates so they do get ankle movement.
Yeah. No, there's so many different kinds of bracing options that we can use with different kiddos. And I'll say one of the things that's great with all the orthotists that we work with is I love when we can collaborate together to really get the brace that is best for the child. Because we'll be thinking one thing in therapy, and sometimes it's right on target, and then sometimes I feel like we get together with our orthotists, and it's great to just problem solve and brainstorm through what the kiddo really needs.
Yeah, and that's what makes it nice about, following up on the appointment, like, doing the
Yeah,
appointment together to get the best solution for them.
absolutely.
Well, we have a few questions from our audience. Let's see, I've got one here that is, how do I get referred to physical therapy? And the second one is maybe not so much a question, but maybe just should I be concerned? My child is a year old and they are still not walking, question mark. So how do I get referred to physical therapy? And the second one was, my child is a year old and they are still not walking, question mark.
So a referral to physical therapy would come from whoever your child sees as their primary care doctor. So whether it's their pediatrician, if you guys go to a family practice. So that's where you would start to kind of just get the process rolling, see if the pediatrician is concerned, and then have them write a prescription to have a physical therapy evaluation. As far as a little one that's a year old and not yet walking, I don't think that's a reason to be concerned yet. My questions for that would be, have they hit all their developmental milestones prior to a year? So hopefully they're sitting independently, they're crawling on hands and knees, and they're progressing to kind of standing and cruising. If they're a year old and haven't really progressed to the point of being able to pull themselves up to stand and stand kind of at the couch or at like a coffee table, something like that, I would say that might be just worthwhile to have a conversation with your doctor and just see what they think. And certainly, if your little one isn't progressing towards independent walking and making steady gains by 15 months, you definitely want to talk to your doctor and possibly have a PT evaluation. Any other questions that have come up?
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and open this to anybody else in the audience who has any other questions.
Michelle, while we're waiting for other questions, are there questions that you guys get frequently about Sure Steps or about anything else in general when you see these young walkers?
I think the biggest is how long are they going to have to wear them for? Are they going to have to
Yes.
like for the rest of their lives?
Yeah.
Those are the type of most popular, most asked questions. And, again, we just tell the families, like, we just have to work with, as they're progressing and working with physical therapy, wearing the braces. Are they, do they have enough stability and support? And the nice thing is, you can take them out of it and have them try to walk, that you can see the difference when they're walking with the brace as opposed to not walking with the brace when they have them already.
Yeah.
So that is our biggest question is, how long? And we all wish we had a crystal ball that we could tell them not for
Yes.
long, but but again, the biggest thing about, and all the bracing systems that are out there, they do make them fun with the patterns that they can put on them so that they're just not, things that you've seen, like pictures that hopefully aren't even around anymore, way
Yeah.
back when, before it was big clunky plastic braces or metal braces. That's not the
Not at
method.
all what they look like now.
No, and that's what's nice, is that they make them fun. But yeah, like I said, no crystal ball to say we wish it was only for a little while. But and actually,
Yeah.
we have kids that when you do take them away, they want to keep wearing them because they just like them.
Yeah. And I know sometimes I'll get families that will say, do we do therapy with the braces on? And typically, especially for the Sure Steps specifically, I'll say, I tend to do therapy with them on because the Sure Steps are giving them the stability, kind of holding their foot in a little bit better position. And I want to strengthen them and have them walk in that position versus oftentimes in their compensated position.
Yeah.
So how long should kiddos wear their Sure Steps during the day?
Pretty much, we tell them this, once they have that breaking in period and they know there's no like irritation or problems with wearing them, pretty much all day, as
Most
long
of
as,
the day, right?
yeah. And like I said, with that, when you were asking about like how long do they wear them for, when I was saying that 3 to 6 months, that was more about, we look for because growth. If they grow, the braces will become too small because unfortunately they don't grow as well. So we want to
Yeah.
make sure that in that 3 to 6 months follow up of wearing them, that the braces are still fitting properly, providing the proper support and
Yes.
stability, so that they are getting the benefit of wearing the brace to achieve their goals.
Yeah. I know my little guy, he's in them from when he wakes up until either bath time or close or PJ time at least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I said, and like for most kids though, at that age, they wear shoes all day long anyway, because it's just better for them than to be running around barefoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, Another question that we get, or that a lot of families want to know about, even before they come to PT, is kind of what a general PT session looks like for a kiddo that does have delays. So I'll say it really depends on the kiddo. I mean, all of our sessions are really geared towards the kiddo, what the kiddo needs that we're seeing. They can look very similar, but oftentimes it's not uncommon for a little one that is having difficulty kind of progressing to independent walking. They often have muscle weakness. So whether it's in their legs, in their core, it's not uncommon that we have a little one that comes to us for delayed walking and we find out that they're not even really transitioning or haven't started crawling.
mhm.
Those kiddos, we will say that we do try to push for crawling first if we can. There's a lot of important things that come along in development as far, by doing them in a certain order. And crawling is one of those things that really gets kiddos ready to be upright. So if you do have a little one that isn't walking yet, but also isn't crawling, that is something that we really try to educate the family on as why we're working on it, the importance of working on it. Not only does it have implications for helping their child progress to walking, but it also has implications as far as like eye-hand coordination, muscle strength throughout the palm of their hand. That kind of comes into play later for more fine motor things, handwriting, things like that. So it really depends on the kiddo, but working on improving strength and kind of hitting each of their milestones is something that we'll work on with a good majority of the kiddos that we see.
Right. I mean, that's where therapy is so crucial in this part, because, it's not just about putting a brace on and saying, okay, we're all done, that this is going to rectify the problem. It's looking
Yeah.
at, again, the big picture of the whole body
Yeah.
and like you said, the core, everything is so important for them to get up and be able to start walking.
Absolutely. And then Michelle, one of the questions that came through has to do with insurance and Sure Steps. What do you find as far as, I know it varies with every single insurance company, but do a lot of insurance companies tend to cover at least some portion of the Sure Steps?
Yes. Because they're not, it's so Sure Step is just a specific name, when what we call coding, when we code the brace to submit to the insurance company, they're only seeing it as an SMO or
Yes.
an AFO. They're not knowing, that it's coming from Sure Step or any other type of brace design out there. It's just a general name that they're seeing. So yeah, most insurances, again, it depends on the plan, and that's everything that we would find out here at Restore. We do all the insurance information and communicate with the patient if there is an out-of-pocket expense, before we begin everything.
Great.
Anything for making the brace. So
Very good.
yeah.
And then another question it looks like that came through is, it looks like someone had a little one whose kiddo did not qualify for early intervention. So early intervention is a service through the county where you can have your child evaluated for services, but there is a certain qualification that they have to meet. So their little one didn't qualify for that. So can they come to Theraplay, and how is it different and what do we focus on? So early intervention is more of the educational model where a care or a therapist will, if your little one qualifies, will go kind of educate you and give you a lot of tools to help your child succeed in the environment that they're in every day. So it's a very important part of therapy, but not every kiddo qualifies. So if you still have concerns, you can certainly bring your little one to one of our outpatient centers. And we are a little bit different in that we use the medical model where we are a lot of hands-on with the child. We do a lot of education with the family, but it's also really doing a lot physically with the child to help them kind of gain strength in areas that they need it and really be able to achieve their goals and hit all their developmental milestones as appropriate. So if you didn't qualify for early intervention and still have concerns, you can absolutely have your concerns looked at further in an outpatient setting.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like there are any more questions in the audience, but anybody who is still with us, or if you're watching this on our Facebook page after the fact, if you do have any more questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section and we will get back to you on them. I'd like to thank Heidi and Michelle for joining us today. This was really informational. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michelle, it was great seeing you again.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.